No rational or sensible government would want an economy where financial fraud or tax evasion is prevalent. That is irrespective of the color of the government, whether it's left, center, or right, because it destroys confidence in government and takes away the resources that the government would want to spend more wisely.
You will hear incredible things today which you couldn't believe happen. And I propose as well then when we have afterwards the possibility to eat here on the second floor, try to install personal contact to them.
What then began to happen? Mr. Ablyazov and his very, very good network. I would say at this point, Ablyazov is a genius. He's often referred to as a financial genius, and anybody who studied this story would agree with that. The man really has something. He set up a network of associates who set up a network of companies, mostly in the Seychelles, British Virgin Islands, which is always very interesting to Britain, of course. And these companies would then attract immense sums of money from BTA Bank for dodgy property deals. Some deals never happened. But the bottom line is that by the time the Kazakh authorities realized something was going on, some $7.6 billion had vanished from the BTA Bank. $7.6 billion. Try to imagine that in a suitcase. Anyway, Mr. Ablyazov fled Kazakhstan very quickly and found himself in the UK. Whilst in the UK, he made himself very comfortable. He acquired a lovely property portfolio. I don't know how many of you are familiar with an area in London known as Bishop's Avenue. It's known as Billionaires Row. Mr. Ablyazov acquired there a £20 million mansion, complete with ballroom. He styled himself as an opposition figure, opposed to the current leader, President Nazarbayev, and was temporarily granted asylum on that basis. However, things didn't go so well for him. Kazakhstan issued some 11 writs against him in the English courts. And as I said, a lot of the money that we were talking about that went missing found itself in the British Virgin Islands, so this comes under British competence, and therefore probably that was not the best place for him to go at that point, London. But that's where he found himself. And after a series of court cases with no less than, get this, 35 barristers representing him in court, he was found guilty of corruption and embezzlement. His assets, which were, I think it was somewhere in the region of 4 billion, in the UK it was £421 million were frozen, and he was subject to an asset freeze and forbidden to dispose of his assets. As a result, Ablyazov was arrested. There was a story that he had a private militia, so he was arrested by French special forces, very heavily armed, very serious guys. And they took him into custody, and he spent the best part of 3 years in a French jail as a result, before being freed. He was subject to, at one point, 3 extradition warrants, and also he was on the Interpol's red list, as were some of his accomplices. Now, nepotism and patronage come into this story quite a lot.
We can come to the conclusion that there is something that may be so obvious, may not be so obvious for a public opinion in Europe. What is it? Well, there are 2 things. Let me point them out. One, most of the donations made to the Open Dialogue Foundation are coming from the Ukrainian business that is interconnected with Mayak factory established in Sevastopol.
You mentioned that, I'm Belgian myself also, that this Kazakhstan gentleman is trying to apply for asylum in Belgium, or is trying to obtain Belgian citizenship. Well, I'm sure you're aware that we have our other famous Kazakh-Belgian oligarch, Mr. Patok. He's one of the big 3 oligarchs in Kazakhstan who managed somehow to obtain Belgian citizenship, and recently there was a scandal with some allegations made about a Belgian politician who would have helped him with the help of Sarkozy. I don't know what's proven, what's not, but I do think there would be a lot of interest in the Belgian media to report about this. So I think you should try to spread that story over here.
We all know that there's speculation as to whether Ablyazov actually set up ODF and what level of control he has.
Please, are there any yes? Monsieur le Président, yes, you have the...
No, thank you. I would just like to thank you for the invitation and to congratulate the journalist and our colleague for the excellent work. We all know that the post-Soviet time has been, in some occasions, worse than the Soviet concerning transparency, social conditions, and all kind of, I would say, gangsterism or criminality. So I think this all has to be followed. Just a short comment on the ODF. I have in my own activities of the Economic Social Committee. We have had also some concern about George Soros activities and ODF activities, because in some cases I think they exceed the limit of what we can imagine from this kind of organization. I just rely what you say about this Facebook statement concerning the attitude for the Polish citizen to stop to pay tax or things like that, which is almost suspicious and not, I think, the normal activities of NGO. And I think the transparency in NGOs funding should always be encouraged.
I found a way of making it more understandable for me what is a billion. This I would like to share with you. Imagine this is a person 20 years old, 20 years. Since the first week when this young person was born, up to now, 20 years, every Saturday, this person has won 1 million in the lottery. Imagine, 20 years, winning 1 million. It's very difficult to achieve one time in your life. But 20 years, every Saturday, every weekend, 1 million in the lottery. Altogether is 1 billion.